was an opinion piece written over at Jezebel that caught my attention. The writer is Ashley Reese, and I want to preface this by saying she's not a bad guy, she's a good guy, okay? She seems to be a Bernie Sanders supporter, and she wants to, at least the feel that I get, encourage Bernie Sanders supporters to avoid provoking some of the centrist Democrats who have been smearing him and his supporters. And what she references is the Bernie would have won line, which I think is a completely accurate line. But she thinks that it's actually causing more harm than good. So the title of her piece is "The End of Bernie Would Have Won." And I want to give you a few excerpts and then we can discuss it. Because again, I think she's well-meaning, but I think that she hasn't been hit with everything that's made me super jaded about this country and about centrist Democrats specifically.
By the way, an alternate headline that's also online is "Bernie Would Have Won" is canceled. Okay, that sounds even more obnoxious, but a lot of times the writers don't write the headlines, just to be fair.
Right, so let me give you a few excerpts from Ashley Reese's article. Out of the anger, the dismay, the fear that followed November 8th, 2016 came a bitter refrain repeated by those who supported Bernie Sanders, Clinton's main competitor in the Democratic Party. Bernie would have won. It effectively poured salt on the post-election wound. Its central argument drew from early stats. Sanders gained more votes than Clinton in crucial states like Michigan and Wisconsin during the primary, which later turned red during the general. Additionally, Sanders was considered the anti-establishment candidate during a year when being anti-establishment was in vogue. Trump ran and won on it, and though he didn't get the popular vote, Clinton should have won, his anti-establishment messaging proved victorious in a slew of swing states. Now, this is where it starts to get maybe a little shaky where people could disagree.
Hold on, before we get to that part, let me just both agree and disagree already. So you can tell she's a good guy because she gets that there was an anti-establishment vibe. She gets that that's why Trump won. Already that makes her leagues above all the mainstream media who have never acknowledged that, because it would mean that there's an anti-them vibe, right? So she's correctly deduced that that was the driving force. And I don't disagree with Clinton should have won. We shouldn't have the Electoral College in the first place, so it's not about bitterness at all. In fact, I am bitter at the Electoral College because she got 3 million more votes than she should have been president. But the part that I disagree with, and it's really problematic, is just that little phrase she said in the beginning, effectively poured salt on a post-election wound. No, that's not the point. So folks on the other side, the corporate Democrats say, oh, you guys are just, you're being mean. You know, this is really hurtful and you're trying to pour salt on the wound. At least from our point of view, and I think from the overwhelming majority of Bernie Sanders supporters, that's not the point at all. The point is to say, let's not make that mistake again.
Yes, exactly. Especially when centrist Democrats, like Joe Biden, are really relying on this message of electability to win the Democratic nomination. But the fact of the matter is, he is certainly not more electable than someone like Bernie Sanders, because Biden represents more of what Hillary Clinton represented. In fact, I think he even goes further in talking about his willingness to work with Republicans. In fact, recently he noted that he would be open to choosing a Republican as his VP. Disaster, right? So if you think that that makes you more electable, you're insane. And so that's the reason why the Bernie would have won line gets used so often, because there are progressive voters in this country who are hoping that that message gets across, that someone who is progressive, who actually cares about fixing this rigged economic system is more electable than someone who wants the status quo.
Yeah, so my main beef with this piece is that Ashley is not acknowledging that progressives and the whole country is being gaslit by corporate Democrats and the mainstream media, saying, remember, the establishment candidate, the so-called moderate centrist candidate, is more electable. But that's what you told us last time, and she didn't win. She's not president. It's not about pouring salt on the wounds. It's that they're gaslighting us just like they did last time. Look, I'll go further. The mainstream media is engaging in a lie on it's on a mass scale. They're saying, even though it's the most obviously provable lie, the person you told us was more electable last time, has the same policies as Joe Biden, is the more establishment candidate, and she lost. But you turn around and go, nope, 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 nope. Bernie's not electable, just like we told you last time. Populism doesn't work, even though Trump won. Anti-establishment doesn't work, even though Trump won. No, you shouldn't believe your lying eyes. You should believe our propaganda that the establishment candidate is more electable. And they've repeated it a million times, a billion times, until it drilled into people's heads. I was talking to friends and family recently, and they're like, oh, I don't necessarily agree with Biden, but I gotta vote for him because he's more electable. Oh, God damn it, their propaganda worked. That's the whole point here.
Yes, exactly. So I'm gonna skip ahead to where she kind of talks about why she wants to cancel that line, right? The Bernie should have won line. As much as I largely agree with the ethos behind Bernie would have won, I'm canceling it for 2019. Too many people are losing the plot. A useful identifier like neoliberal has become so abused that it has become trite, and criticizing milquetoast Democrats for supporting centrist policies or policy agendas is now grounds for being called a Russian bot. And then later in the piece, she kind of talks about how while Bernie has managed to build this diverse coalition, the reputation is that they're a bunch of Bernie bros, right? That there isn't diversity, that it's a bunch of white males who are super aggressive on Twitter, and maybe we should move away from lines like Bernie would have won, so the centrist Democrats don't go after us so hard. But this is my biggest issue with her piece, because don't make the mistake that I think a lot of people make. They're not the good guys. The centrists that go after Bernie Sanders supporters and smear them and put out propaganda against them and propaganda against Bernie Sanders, they have no interest in playing fair or speaking the truth. They are ruthless, they play dirty, and they have no interest in telling the truth. So don't allow them to frame the discussion, and don't allow them to influence the way you behave. Now, obviously be respectful, be civil, but I think that making arguments like Bernie would have won are important arguments to make, especially when it comes to all the misinformation about electability.
Based on our piece, Ashley is clearly smart and has the actual facts. That's why it's frustrating that I think she's accidentally helping the propaganda of the wrong side. So let me explain what I mean by that. She also talked about avoiding the mistakes of last time. So it's not like she doesn't know that, she does, and she did put it in the piece, so that's important to note. But when she talks about the Sanders people, she says they have a reputation. Well, okay, and she says they have a reputation of being surly white leftist dudes. Then she goes on to say that's not an accurate representation of Sanders' base. So she knows and acknowledges in the piece, but so then why did you repeat it?
She repeated it because she's trying to make a point about how, hey, let's get rid of that reputation, and one way to get rid of that reputation is by avoiding phrases like Bernie would have won.
Yeah, so that gets to the very heart of this. So the last paragraph, she says, there's too much work to do to get caught up in the same skirmishes on loop for another 3 years. No, so those skirmishes are not a sideshow, are not counterproductive. They're actually the real battle. I don't mean like being too vituperative online, et cetera. No, I'm talking about, you have to acknowledge that the corporate media is on the side of the corporate Democrats. And even those words might be offensive to some, but they are in fact the corporate media. They're all multi-billion-dollar corporations who want to maximize profit, including the money they get from money in politics being spent on ads in their stations, okay? And the access that they get to politicians. Those corporate Democrats are corporate, they do take money from corporations and do serve their interests. So those folks are the ones that are together gaslighting the whole country and telling them, remember the Bernie supporters are all bros and surly white leftist dudes, and something about Bernie Sanders makes me sick to my stomach, even though I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna do propaganda on the so-called left-wing channel of MSNBC. And so Ashley, they're all doing that in unison. And so then they turn around and go, it reminds me of, I'll use an old analogy, Rowdy Roddy Piper in the old WWF. He was a bad guy wrestler, he'd hit somebody over the head with a chair. When they turn around to hit him, he'd go, what, right? And that's what the media does. They smash us over the head, say, oh, you guys are just all white males, you don't even like minorities, all these slurs and smears and et cetera, right? None of it based in fact, as Ashley recognizes, etc. Then when we turn around and go, that's not true, everybody goes, oh, there goes the Bernie bros.
Yeah,
guys, Kyle, you're starting the skirmish. Why are you doing the skirmish on a loop? Because we're trying to desperately get our message out that they're lying to you. They're lying to you. The populace is more electable. Independents don't want corporate politicians that are Democrats or Republicans. They want someone who's actually gonna fight for them. That's an honest politician, then that's more populist. Independents decide the election. These are facts, and I can back it up with polling. So why do I raise my voice? To try to get past the din of the corporate media that oppresses us all with their propaganda that is based on lies. Those are facts. So don't take it out on us when we fight back. We didn't start the fight. They started the fight. And they did it in 2016 when they said Hillary Clinton is already leading. She has an overwhelming lead. When they hadn't done a single vote. They did it based on superdelegates who hadn't even voted yet and who were part of the corrupt establishment. They're doing it this time by saying on a loop 1,000,000 times over, Biden is more electable, Biden is more electable, establishment is more electable, moderate and centrist is more electable, even though it's empirically incorrect, right? So just all I'm saying is, don't bash us for trying to fight back against this giant machine that is spewing lies and propaganda.
Right, and the establishment wants to intimidate you from speaking the truth, really. That's at the bottom of all of this. They want to dissuade you from telling the truth about the candidates, from speaking the truth about what actually happened in 2016, and don't let them do that. Don't give them that kind of power.